Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this review has spoilers, so if you don't want to hear any, do not listen to this. Holy shit, that was just... wow. What an ending. Listen, I don't care how much you hate Chuck, if you didn't even feel a slight bit of sympathy for him, then I don't know what to tell you. The sounds of him rocking that lantern back and forth, that shit's just gonna stay with me for a while. I mean, damn, it was just some really sad stuff. And if you had any doubts about whether he really died or not, they showed a suicide hotline number at the credits, or after the credits, so I'm pretty sure he died. With that said, this is my Better Call Saul season finale reaction, as well as my thoughts on the season in general, and predictions about where they're going to go in season 4. To start off, I thought it was a fairly tame finale as far as season finales go. Is not a lot happened that we didn't see coming. Funny thing about Chuck's death was I actually kind of thought it wouldn't happen, because the episode title just made it so obvious. When the episode titles dropped for the season months ago, literally everyone jumped to that title immediately, predicting his death. I mean, I don't blame them. I did too. But then I thought, man, there's just no way they're actually going to do this because it's too damn obvious with that episode title. And the writers know that fans look into this shit a lot. I mean, if you recall last season, people had deciphered the Rings back message within days of the episode titles being released. They've went on record to say that they underestimated fans there, and I honestly thought after having that happen, there's no way they'd try anything with the episode titles again. That is, of course, unless this is what they were counting on, and that's why they ended up titling the episode this way, as it was simply them playing mind games with us. Oh, we'll just title with this because there's no way they'll suspect we'll kill him because, they wouldn't think we'd go with such an obvious title, so it'll surprise them anyway. Regardless, the death still hit me pretty hard, as I'm a pretty big Chuck defender. Yeah, I know. Boo. But to see him like that, just sitting there, defeated, having given up and just in plain misery, it was pretty sad to watch. That's why I said before, if you don't even have a shred of sympathy for him, then it's just sad in my opinion, because no one should ever have to resort to something like that. Moving on, other things that happened like Hector's heart attack and Kim taking a break were both pretty much expected and played out how I thought they would. Hector's heart attack was still intense, and I can't deny I didn't feel the slightest bit of sorry for him because I sure as hell didn't. It was pretty amusing watching Gus literally dive in to revive him though, since we all know what happens to these characters in the end. I guess some were a little bit confused why Gus helped him, but I thought it was pretty obvious to most of us as Gus wants to see Hector suffer on his terms, so of course he's going to do what he has to save him. If you watch Talking Saul after the finale, Vince Gilligan touches on this basically and says the same thing as Gus wants to control Hector's fate. He wants to be the one that makes him suffer, and he wants to be the one to say when enough is enough. So naturally, he's going to save him here when his life is threatened. Like I said, I thought it was pretty much a given, but I see a lot of people ask about it, so I thought I'd mention that here. As for Kim taking it easy again, this was something they touched on in Talking Saul later too, and was something else I thought was pretty predictable. I mean, she clearly was overworked at that point and stressed from taking on the extra work with the new client, as well as handling Mesa Verde's shit, so like they said in Talking Saul, her crash was basically a wake-up call for her to slow it down before she did something she'd regret. Interestingly, if you paid attention to this scene, where she tells Jimmy why she decided to take a break and, just why she's taking it easy now, she mentions, the first thing she mentions is she was concerned for others' safety, and all Jimmy can say or think about is, what about her safety? You could just say this was Jimmy speaking out of concern for her, but I really think it was to show a difference between the two of them, as Kim is mindful of others while Jimmy just thinks about himself or his own interests. The last major thing to cover was how Chuck and Howard resolved their HHM feud. I wasn't sure how this would play out, but I did figure it wouldn't end up going to court, which it didn't ultimately. I was pretty surprised to see Howard actually pay out of his own pocket to get Chuck away, though. To me, it was kind of a sad scene, because you had two guys that were once good friends at each other's throats to the point where one of them literally decided to pay the other off just to get them out of their life. With that said, though, you gotta admire Howard's professionalism, as the way he handled Chuck's send-off, even I didn't see that one coming. That was pretty clever. One more thing about the HHM thing was I thought it was a little weird that supposedly a big firm like theirs, which, incidentally, according to Howard in this episode, is one of the biggest in the state, so they couldn't afford a few million to pay Chuck off. This was further affirmed to me in the same scene when he states just how big the firm really is, and we see all the employees gathered when they find out the outcome of the Chuck Howard talk. I mean, holy shit, that's a lot of employees. Just think of all those high-priced lawyers and their paralegals, plus the secretaries and maintenance and everyone else they employ. And you're saying they couldn't afford a few million? Not sure about that. So what should we expect in Season 4 now? For starters, I think Chuck's death is going to have large ramifications for everyone involved. I know Jimmy hated Chuck in this season, but it was pretty obvious in this episode he still cared for him despite everything that happened between them, so I'm curious how this will affect Jimmy and his path on becoming Saul. While I never believed Chuck was an anchor that held Jimmy back from becoming Saul, he still plays a pretty big part in Jimmy's life, whether he's involved with Jimmy personally or not, as we've seen so far. So I'm really interested to see how Jimmy takes this. The only thing I know now is I sure hope, for Howard's sake, Chuck didn't cash that check, as wouldn't that be piss in the wind to see that money go to waste, right? Another point to consider on what holds Jimmy back is Kim is still in his life at this point. Called it since season 2, when she found out Jimmy had fabricated evidence with the creation of the squat cobbler video, and she basically told him if he did shit like that again, she just did not want to know. It seems obvious to me Kim leaving him will be the final straw for Jimmy and what causes him to go full Saul mode eventually. It's just a matter of when it happens, and I do believe that will occur at some point next season. I mean, let's face it, we're all enjoying the ride of Jimmy becoming Saul, but we're 4 seasons in now. Jimmy, like we saw in the finale, is still flip-flopping and being good and being bad, and I think it's going to take Kim leaving him to solidify his transformation into Saul Goodman for good. I've always thought this would happen since they established her as a straight arrow in his life, and now more than ever I'm convinced that's definitely what's going to happen to change Jimmy for good. The writers themselves have acknowledged something big is going to happen between them, since we don't see her in Breaking Bad, and I think it's going to be this. I don't see them killing her off. 1, because they clearly like the character a lot from all the interviews that I've read, and I just don't see them doing it. 2, because I think Kim leaving Jimmy would have a much more meaningful impact on his transition into Saul than if she just died. I know that sounds weird, but if she gets killed off, he'll definitely grieve and be hurt, most likely getting depressed in the long run. But if she leaves him, I think that will devastate him way more, to the point where he'll just become cold and simply not care about anything anymore. It'll be the last straw in what will unleash Saul Goodman onto the world. A guy that simply does not give a shit about anyone but himself and his ambitions. The remaining characters I think will be more straightforward in where they go. Like, obviously we're finished with Hector now, and I doubt we'll see him again apart from seeing the immediate aftermath of the heart attack, for example. Mike and Gus's stories will likely be more connected from this point on, if I had to guess. We'll most likely see Gus working to build his empire more, as well as seeing how him and Mike's business relationship further progresses. With Hector gone, the cartel crippled now, hopefully this means Mike's vendetta drops, as honestly it was starting to get a little old at this point. I'll be very curious to see how they handle Howard now that Chuck's out of the picture. What kept Howard around most of the season, or held most of the show in general, was his story was connected to Chuck's. And with that bridge burned, or rather that house burned, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that character now. Will they write him out and reduce him to at most a supporting role? Or will they somehow keep him in HHM relevant enough to bring back his main character again? I really have no idea what they could do with him apart from the initial aftermath scene when he finds out Chuck's suicide. I kinda hope they keep him around though, just because Howard has always amused me as a character. He's just been this kind of like middleman in all of the crazy McGill brothers shit. And this season, it just finally reached its boiling point for him, and things just hit the fan with him. I mean, I can't blame him. I mean, I probably would have lost my composure a long time ago. So, hats off to Howard for taking over 3 seasons before he finally got tired of the Gill brothers crap. So we'll see where that goes, I guess. Overall, I enjoyed this season very much, and would be lying if I said I wasn't plastered to a seat every Monday night watching it, as I definitely was. It's just one of those shows that's really addicting and always leaves you wanting more after every episode, no matter what happens in it. The tape trial episodes in particular were really great TV, and had everyone talking, and it was just a really fun time to be a Better Call Saul fan. This season, more than the other 2, really did feel like with every passing episode we were getting closer to Jimmy becoming Saul. I mean, we saw him name drop Saul Goodman again for the second time, which was awesome, plus seeing him make those over-the-top commercials for the first time, but not in the way we thought he would. We also got to see the first members of his infamous legal team, which would be Francesca and Huel. Also, just to say it and to get it out of the way, I don't care what anyone says. Francesca's changing is the transition I'm most curious to see on this show. To me, it's even more interesting than Jimmy's, as she's just so sweet, normal, and just, I don't know, she's just not someone you would expect to see break bad, as they say. Like, when you look at her, the way she is in Breaking Bad, and you compare it to what she's like now, it's funny. So I seriously cannot wait to see how they show her evolve or devolve, depending on your viewpoint of her, as I don't know. I think it's funny stuff. To conclude, I thought it was a pretty solid season and definitely improved on its pacing a lot, although there were some instances where I did think they went a little overboard in their silent montage scenes of characters doing stuff. Maybe it's just me, but some of them just felt like they took 5 minutes, and I don't know, I just thought they dragged on too much and wasted too much time. Kind of like that long montage of Kim on the phone trying to drum up new business for HHM in season 2. Some of this stuff just goes on a tad bit long in my opinion. That said, what an ending, and I really cannot wait for season 4 now. Much like how I felt after season 2's finale, it's gonna be a long ass wait, and that really sucks, but hey, what can you do, right? Guess that means we'll just have plenty of time to speculate and wonder where they'll take this crazy show next. I do think without a doubt though, we'll definitely see Saul Goodman next season though, for sure. I don't think they'll make us go a whole nother season without him again. I think he's coming, and it's going to be awesome when we finally get to see that cheap strip mall office and the tacky suits again. I believe. I mean, I really do believe we'll get to see him next season. So that's it for my thoughts on the finale and what's to come, so hopefully you got something out of that. If you want to share your own thoughts on the finale or predictions on what's to come, or maybe you just want to bash me for mine, please feel free to hit up the comments. I'll definitely check those out. If not, then I guess I'll see all you guys when season 4 comes out. Thanks for listening, and as always, for your legal needs, you better call Saul.